Back on the SportsMax zone, we're continuing with football and the FIFA World Cup in Qatar because the pre-tournament favourites and five-time champions Brazil suffered a huge blow after their star forward Neymar was ruled out probably until the end of the group stage. Neymar was withdrawn in the 80th minute in Brazil's 2-0 win over Serbia following a heavy collision with Nikola Milenkovic. The 30-year-old was then pictured in tears on the bench before images of his swollen ankle began to circulate on social media after the game. Brazil's team doctor confirmed Neymar's injury via a press release. He said Neymar and Danilo went through an MRI on Friday afternoon and we found ligament damage in the ankle of both of them. They will miss the next game for sure and will be cautious as they will undergo treatment in order to try to get them in shape so they can play again in the World Cup. Now, Neymar was the most fouled player at the end of the first round of the group stages. 9 out of the 12 fouls committed by Serbia were on him. And not a lot of difference from what we saw 4 years ago in Russia, where Neymar spent a lot of time on the turf.
Yeah, and it brings into question, Lance, like, one, why Neymar is being foiled so often? And is it that, you know, when you play a team, okay, so if you're the star-studded team, the strategy from the weaker team at play is to tackle the person that you think will cause most damage to your team, score-wise?
Yeah, well, that is a part of it. If you have a danger player, you don't want to give them much room and comfort on the playing field. But I think players like Neymar may attract a lot more aggression from opposing players because of the disdain that they show when they're on the field with their opponents. A lot of Brazilians tend to play with a lot of disdain. It's almost as if they're showboating on you. And opposing players, don't take those things lightly. So I think even though there are a lot of players globally with Neymar's ball handling skills, it is, I think, partially the disdain that he shows on the field that angers opponents. So I think he attracts a lot of aggression because of that, partially.
Question.
Not that it's justified, but I'm just saying that I think because he is like that, I think it would increase the sort of aggression that players employ when they're up against him.
So because of this, do you think that players, like star players, for example, Neymar in this case, should be given added protection?
Well, to be honest, in the way football is these days, so attacking players are far more protected now than they were 40 years ago. That is a fact, because referees are now keen on ensuring that, you know, players aren't brutalized. You know, you don't just go in a game and take out your opposing star player to increase your own chances of winning. So I think referees, now more than they did many years ago, are protective and they're pretty harsh on players, defensive players, who have a mindset of injuring or taking out an offensive opposing player.
Yeah, and despite Neymar not being the goal scorer for Brazil's first win, I found today that a lot of the Brazil supporters, after this news came out, were a bit quiet. Is this a cause for concern where Brazil is involved? Yeah,
it is a cause for concern because Neymar, well, you just said it, he didn't contribute a lot to what happened yesterday, and Brazil still flourished. But Neymar is one of the best players in the world. There's no question about it. And he can play a very, very influential role in Brazil winning the World Cup in Qatar. And if his injury extends too deep into the championship, because we expect Brazil to get deep into the championship, it is a cause for concern. I would say that it's reasonable to think that a Brazilian fan would be worried if they're going to play a lot of these games without Neymar. I mean, I think they can win without him. You know, I'm not saying no.
But they're better with him.
Yes, because of his quality, Brazilians will always feel that their chances are better if he's there.
Yeah, well, we're staying with the World Cup, and Bear Company and official FIFA sponsor Budweiser will hand over 75 million worth of beer prepared to be sold at the FIFA World Cup in Qatar to the World Cup winning country. Lance, my question to you, what if a country with a similar stance on alcohol lifts the World Cup? Let's, for argument's sake, say Saudi Arabia.
Well, that's an easy answer. That won't happen.
What, Saudi Arabia
The team that wins the World Cup will be a beer drinking team.
Why would you say that?
It will. Okay, let's talk about it in the third week in December. Ask me the question again.
All right. Well, that's your answer, and you seem very adamant on that. But, I also wanted to hear what you had to say about the fact that, Budweiser being one of FIFA's biggest sponsor, and then 2 days before it's being announced that, there'll be no alcohol drinking in Qatar at the World Cup.
Untidy, a little bit of an uncomfortable development there for Budweiser and FIFA, because FIFA flourishes on sponsorship deals, and they're propped up significantly by a lot of their big clients as far as sponsorship is concerned. So this is an uncomfortable development for Budweiser and FIFA.
So Budweiser tweeted this, right? New day, new tweet. Winning country gets the buds. Who will get them? But I was reading an article, I believe it's The Guardian,
yes,
earlier today. And what happened is when Budweiser got the news that, they couldn't sell alcohol, being one of the biggest sponsors, they actually tweeted and then they deleted, well, this is awkward, right? And of course, higher-ups probably message a person controlling the social media and say to delete it.
Yes.
So I think it's a spin-off now saying, well, new day, new tweet, whoever wins.
Yeah. Well, it's a good way to do it, because awkward is a good word to describe what has happened with that development. And, clients as major as Budweiser will want to put the best spin possible on an awkward situation. And looking ahead to the final and what they do and how Budweiser is projected after that, and with this new story about the lavishing Budweiser on winning teams, I think is a pretty good one, because as I said earlier, the team that wins the World Cup will be a beer drinking team. It won't be any Saudi Arabia or any team like that.
He's confident. But one more thing before we move on.
Yes.
It was also, like on social media, there was a lot of mockery concerning this topic, right?
Yes.
Because many people felt as if the beer Budweiser isn't like one of the best beers. So they were joking and saying, well, this is an incentive not to win the World Cup. What say you? I know you don't really drink, but off and on you would taste.
Yes.
So have you ever tasted it? And
Budweiser? I'm not sure if I've ever had Budweiser, quite frankly, but all beers taste bad to me.
yeah.
I've never tasted a beer that tastes nice. Never. I'll drink it occasionally, but beer is not something that tastes good to me. So if people comment on beer and how it tastes, I'll stay out of that discussion.
All right, let's continue. Belgium's captain, Eden Hazard, has said players should concentrate on the football after Germany covered their mouths in protest at FIFA over its response to the One Love campaign. Lance, what do you think about that? Focus on the football?
Yes, I would say so. Focus on the football, because that's what they're there for. I know people think that this is a stage where they can get their messages across, but I think, certainly from a coaching standpoint or a management standpoint, I would impress upon my players to focus on football. The Germans lost this match 90 minutes after they were doing that. Iran chose not to sing their national anthem for their opening game because they were protesting some not so nice things happening back home, and they lost. And today they sang the national anthem and they won. What does that tell you?
Well, what are you trying to tell me?
Focus on football. Focus on football. That's what you're in Qatar to do. Play football.
All right. Well, with that comment from Lance Whitaker, the wise Lance Whitaker, let's take a break.